live. Exciting. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my, I guess this is like a very belated Springfest 2022 recap session, but I wasn't actually going to do one, but then the floor rules got updated and I really want to talk about it, so I just decided to bundle everything together. And yeah, I'll just be basically talking through the changes, my thoughts. This will be hopefully a resource for other people to look at in the future when they're like trying to figure out what the floor rules actually mean, and how that affects the upcoming tournaments and stuff. And joining me today is a friend, fellow judge, head judge for the EU circuit, Zystral. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Some of you may know me as Zystral, some of you know me as Ben, some of you know me as Yellow Card Vanguard. I am also a Weiss player, surprise, surprise. And yeah, Chairman and I have been talking a lot about rulings over the last few months. We've been sharing our pains and quote-unquote comedy over the Springfest season. And yeah, I'm also pretty excited about the floor rules update, so it's going to be quite interesting to talk about this.
Yeah, so for sure. So I think the idea, and I didn't really tell you this beforehand, but hopefully the idea is like, because I don't expect too many people to be watching this live, but hopefully if they have the time later to review, the stream, they can really pick up kind of like the important information from the floor rules updates, as we're kind of discussing our interpretations of the floor rule updates and how we would be implementing them. Because I feel like we might not be on the same page for some of these things, but I think that's kind of the fun of it. So I have opened the floor rule 1.2. I'm just going to start scrolling through it, and then I guess if you have it open as well, you can just like go to the respective section. And for people,
I haven't gone through it as in depth as you, so I don't because I think so the first thing I'm going to mention, and I'm going to steal your thunder here, is that they've made a bunch of updates to be in line with the JP floor rules, but not all of it has been written in red. So some things have updated, but aren't it's not obvious that they've been updated.
Right, yeah. So I don't actually even know what all of those are, but I know a good number of them. So I'll probably try to direct you to those sections. I'm actually more familiar with like the penalties, because I went back and checked all the penalties to make sure that they're all the same and correct. And so they did update a bunch of the penalties, and they're not in red for some reason. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, anyways, if you're in chat following along, feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll do our best to answer them, whether it's about the floor rules or just about Bushi Springfest or upcoming tournaments or anything that we can answer as judges. We'll do our best to not upset Bushiroad as we give answers that week to the best of our ability.
I actually already have a question, which is that I can't seem to get to your chat for some weird reason.
My chat, really?
Yeah, it's not showing up for me. Can you drop a link in Discord?
Wait, chat of what?
Your stream.
Is there just no chat on the stream?
I mean, I can't even find your stream. That's the other issue.
Oh, sure. Give me a second here. I posted it in some groups. Let's see here. Copy link. I'll drop it into the chat here. Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. Oh yeah, if the music is too loud or anything, just let us know. But alright, so the first thing I have on my page is open is page 4, which is the first section in red. Items required for participation.
Yeah, so I find it funny that they updated the section and they kept the buddy fight section.
Right.
It's kind of a low blow.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, so in the JP rules, they updated this section and they also added Shadowverse Evolve. And they didn't add Shadowverse Evolve here, right? Obviously, because it's not, not here, but I'm just saying that's one of the ways that it differs. And unfortunately, we don't get a leak that Shadowverse Evolve is going to be coming to English. But yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. You know, you just need to bring deck tokens, markers, stuff like that. It's kind of funny how they just didn't have this section at all for like years. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and it kind of like leaves this. It kind of sets up a change that's going to be discussed later on about what exactly qualifies as your tokens and markers, right? Because that's actually been like I've had 3 different people who don't know each other have all said like, you know, oh, if I'm playing like a force deck, am I allowed to have protect markers? If I'm playing like, you know, Kagero, can I have plant tokens and stuff like that? Which has always been a bit weird. Like, you know, it's kind of mind gamey in a way. And there was that Yu-Gi-Oh thing like a few weeks ago where this Yu-Gi-Oh player was he was done in. He's like, oh yeah, I put a Sword Soul token that people can see even though I'm not playing Sword Soul.
Right.
And it's like that's going to be interesting to discuss later on. But I think it's quite interesting to see that this sort of Chekhov's gun, that discussion.
Right. And it does say that tokens and markers used with the deck, right? And so it kind of implying that if it's not used with the deck, you don't need to bring them, but it doesn't say that you can't bring them or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's open for interpretation and also discussion. I do like the last section right here. It says it would be useful to bring something like a ballpoint pen, especially since in NA at least we've run out of pens to give to players.
Yeah.
Like we used to give a pen in every bag, but then pretty soon we realized that that's just
bags?
Yeah, we still give out bags.
Holy shit, we ran out of bags years ago.
Oh, okay, I did not know that. But yeah, we still give like
Yeah.
goodie bags with like the deck box and cards and stuff like that.
Damn, we just hand the players like raw dog and they have to
Holy
send handfuls of stuff to their tables.
damn. Okay, but yeah,
But
we
yeah,
stopped.
we also have a pen problem. Like I
Yeah.
remember on London, the morning of, I realized that none of the judges had pens. I was like, oh, that's not good. So I quickly like ran to the nearest like, you know, discount store and bought like, you know, there was just a bag of like 50 pens for like £1. So I just bought like 2 bags of those, brought them back, and I was like, you know what? It's £2. I don't care. Just start aggressively giving that to players and let them hold on to them. We have
Yeah.
more. And like, you know, by the end of the weekend, we'd actually run out as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah, obviously, like we used to give them out to players, and then that's just like way too many pens. Especially in I think the one that broke our metaphorical back was the Card Fight Vanguard tournament right before COVID. I think we hit for singles. I think we hit over 600 people in California, and so we had to do like A block, B block, and then like a day 2, like a record cutoff for day 2. It was like X2s move it on to day 2, and then they play 2 more rounds, and then we do top cut, like top 16. It was like something ridiculous like that. But yeah, it was basically like we had to give out like thousands of pens that weekend, and we were like, yeah, we can't really do this anymore.
Yeah, it's really weird because like I also get a lot of feedback from players, right? Because some of them are like, oh, I hate these deck boxes, you guys should give out pens, or, you know, I hate these promos, give out the pens. And then some players are like, oh, I really love this deck box, please give me more. And I was like, you know, like,
I mean, you can't win them all, right?
yeah, but I find it weird because like Bushiroad has given out pens in the past. I was like, we should like bring back more pens. Like that's a really good thing.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's really up to them and kind of what their logistics looks like for that. I imagine that pens are probably a little more expensive, or maybe it isn't. I'm not too sure. I've never bulk ordered stuff like this. But also, it's just good that it's in the rules, right? Pens, replacement sleeves. I think up to now it's been basically word of mouth. Like people have been telling each other, like, okay, you remember to bring sleeves and stuff like that. But it's just good to have it written down in the rules.
Yeah.
All right. Proxy cards. Looks like this has been updated. I believe in the Japanese as well. Let me double check. Yes, proxy cards have been. It's the most recent update. So, basically allowing proxy tokens and markers officially in the rules. So proxy cards have always been a thing, and I think it's something that most judges don't actually use. Like I don't remember seeing any judges actually use proxy cards in my time at NNA. Never really came up, but it has been in the rules for quite a long time. And you actually had an experience using a proxy card this Springfest, right?
Yeah, a few weeks ago we had a BSF Spain in Bilbao, which is in Spain. And yeah, so the story was we got to top card of standard, and I think like 4 or 5 players in top 8, like they all had issues with their decks because of cards were being warped, because some cards only come in triple R foil, and given the humidity and climate of Spain, the cards tend to warp there a lot. So like things that come to mind is we had a Spikes player who had all 4 copies of, I think Gloria is the name, but like some grade 1 for Spikes that came in clan selection, and those were the only 4 cards in the deck that were like very clearly warped. Or we had a Flagberg player whose Inlet Pulses and Ascendance Assaults were warped because they were using the hollows. Like we had another Flagberg player whose Price Tridents were warped because again they were using the hollow version, and like as much as you kind of want to assume the issue, another big problem is overtriggers, right? Only come in foil, so they warp a lot.
Right.
And I was like, if it was just one guy, I would probably just like game lost them, like with the suspicion of cheating because like the overtrigger is warped and move on. But when we're talking about like half the top 8, it's like, well, that's going to be a problem, right? And I was like, well, what do I do? Like it's gonna be a problem for the player. The players are gonna feel really bad if I tell them like, sorry, your cards are bent. Like, that's out of your control, but you can't play because of this. So in the end, like I combed through the rules. I think a bunch of the judges in the judge Discord as well looked at the rules like, oh, you can do this. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do this instead. I don't want. We don't have like the stories of NA where like half the top 8 gets removed and half of the top 8 is not actually in 8th place. So that's what we went in the end. And actually, we had similar things for London as well, where for both Weiss and Vanguard, like at least, I think across all 4 tournaments, at least 1 judge proxy was issued.
Interesting. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I don't know if that speaks more about our leniency or more about Bushiroad's quality control.
Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah.
I will say that I think the most we've had to replace in NA was 3 teams in top 8. So not quite half, but close.
Yeah.
And I actually do want to ask, what did you use for the proxy card? Did you like find something on hand or what?
Yeah, so in some cases we were able to find like just replacements. Like the guy with the flag bug, he was able to find non-bent inlet pulses. So like where possible, I gave him like, I said to the players, you have 10 extra minutes before top 8 starts. Go ask your friends, go ask people still in the venue if you can borrow their flag bugs or borrow their inlet pulses or whatever.
Right.
But in the cases where they couldn't find a replacement, I just told them, find some commons that literally cannot exist in your deck. So if they're playing standard, to grab like G and V cards.
Right.
If they're playing V or premium, grab cards that aren't in their clan. And I told them, try to match wherever possible. Try to make similar grades, similar powers, etc. wherever possible. But if not, don't worry too much about it. And then I basically just have to write a piece of paper saying, okay, this person has a judge-issued proxy. X card is actually Y card. A card is actually B card. C card is actually D card. And then I had to sign it. And I told them to keep, these quote-unquote, keep the proxies in your deck. Keep the cards they're proxying in your deck box unsleeved.
Right.
And you don't need to tell, like, when you sit down to play your game, you don't have to tell your opponent, oh, I have judge proxies. But when it comes up, say through drive checks or damage checks, or you put it onto the board,
right,
then show them the note and tell them like this is meant to be proxying this.
Right.
And yeah, like we didn't have any issues with like no one said, Judge, I'm not sure about like does this guy actually have valid proxies? Like no one complained, which I think is a good thing. So I don't think anyone abused that. I mean, it's pretty hard to abuse. Like someone can't just say like, oh, this grade 1 in one game is Swirler, and this grade 1 in a different game is actually Quenlu.
Right, I mean, they can't literally do that, because you've issued the proxy for, like, a specific card, so...
Right, but, like, like, what I mean is that, they can say that without actually showing the note. Like, so that's why I specifically said, like, when it comes up, please show them the note, so that it can says, like, say, Sylvan, Horn Beast, whatever, is actually Brainwash Swirler.
Right.
Just, like, make sure that doesn't happen, but, again, whether or not they did that remains to be seen. I don't know if there's, like, a better solution. I know there's one story in Magic a few years ago how there was one card that only ever came in foil, which is Nexus of Fate for those people watching that know. So Nexus of Fate only existed in foil and didn't exist in non-foil.
I have that card.
Yeah, so when it was being played in the pro circuit, what the judges in that event literally did was they just took a bunch of basic lands and a Sharpie and just wrote Nexus of Fate on the basic lands in Sharpie. And like as much as I wanted to do that, the difference between Magic cards and Vanguard cards is that Magic cards have a lot of frame, have a lot of sort of blank space that you can do that with.
Right.
But it's really hard to do that on a Vanguard card and like actually see like, you know, if I write the words Brainwash Swirler anywhere on say a crit trigger,
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to see that. So
Right.
I can't think of a good solution for that unless they print like blank cards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's ever happening. So I was actually thinking, wouldn't it be kind of neat if we, like, for me as a judge for like the next event, if I brought like Japanese vanillas to use as proxies?
Maybe, but again, like, you kind of want to match the profile as accurately as you can.
Well,
right?
so the idea is that like I would bring like, let's say like a handful of like grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 like vanillas. So like we match like at least the grades and stuff like that. And then because they're in Japanese, it's like clearly like, okay, that's not.
Yeah, I guess that could work. Yeah.
I was thinking of doing that maybe, if I like got a handful of just like random bulk.
Yeah. See, what's really weird as well though is that, like, you know, there's player cards, the player tags with like the player number on them and the seat number, or like the seat position. Like those are printed on cardstock as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that little cutout for the lanyard makes it you can't use it as a card.
Yeah, you can't use that. Yeah.
Right. But I know that they make blanks of those.
Oh really?
Because in I think it was in London, that we never received the B player seats ones. Like we only had A's and C's.
Right.
So for all the B players, we had to write down like, okay, your team, you have 003 player B, 004 player B. So we had to write that down manually.
Yeah.
But I know that they make blank cards in some capacity. So if they just print some blank cards without the cutout, that'd be great. Like
wait, I'll bring that up with them actually. Like maybe we could just have like official usable judge proxies.
Not even judge proxies, just blanks. Like because blanks can be used for a variety of other things, right? Like
well, I don't know if they want to market that though. Like I don't think that they should like retail that necessarily.
No, definitely not for market, but like, you know, it would be like tournament material.
Right. But for tournament stuff, I think that would be very nice to have like just a stack of blanks, right?
Yeah, so like, you know, we could use it for stuff other than proxies as well. If we needed to. It's just a nice little thing to have.
Wait, I'll bring that up the next time I talk to Bushi and Nate. That actually sounds like a pretty neat idea.
Yeah.
So Shizuka says that, or asks, aren't JP Vanguard cards thicker? Are they?
I think they might be. Yeah.
Really? The English ones are really thin, from what I can tell. Like they're like awkwardly thin.
I think I have a Vanguard that's floating around somewhere. Let me check. So, I know one difference, particularly in the G era, is that Japanese G units have a textured card back.
Oh.
Whereas the English ones don't. So I don't know how much that makes a difference.
Interesting. Wait, it's like the same design, but just a textured back.
No. Because all the English G units have, you know, the regular Vanguard back.
Right.
But all of the Japanese G units have that like white stride background with, like, you know, with the two extended legs.
Oh, it's actually just printed, like it's actually just a different background.
It is straight up a different
card back, right? Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's pretty cool.
So I've got this Japanese card here. I don't have a set of calipers to hand, so I can't accurately verify this.
They're sitting in my Amazon cart for fall right now.
But like, if I put them into my two fingers and apply pressure, the English card definitely curves first.
Oh.
So I'm willing to believe that yes, JP cards are made of slightly different stock.
Okay, maybe we can't actually do that then. But yeah, I'll bring up the whole blank cards. I think that's actually the best solution, because then we could just like write relevant information on the card instead of trying to match and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I think that's great. I'll bring that up. That's super cool.
It also gives me the opportunity to troll my friends by writing trash on a blank card and just setting it in front of them while they're playing.
Bro. All right. But yeah, so proxies. So to be honest, I actually didn't realize that there was such a detailed kind of like use case for proxies. I thought that was just like, I just didn't think it was like allowed at an official tournament, like this was an option. So going forward, I'm definitely going to be utilizing the proxies whenever I can.
Yeah, it's actually been really helpful because I remember another story is back in 2017. I was judging a buddy fight event.
Okay.
And one of my friends, like someone I know, dropped one of his cards like off the table in between games, and then he somehow shifted his chair so that the chair leg went on his card on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And it obviously completely destroyed the card, right?
Right.
There's just this big like chair leg shaped hole in the card and the sleeve.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was like, I have extra sleeves, but what do I do about the card? And I was like, do you know anyone that has a spare copy of this? Or, like, can you get on the copy of this? And he was like, let me try, like, give me like 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
And at the end, he was like, no, I can't replace this card. And I was like,
oh shit.
And at the time, I just had to DQ him because I didn't realize the proxy rule was a thing.
Right.
Whereas if I knew back then, I'd be like, okay, well, issue your proxy, you can, here you go, you can keep playing.
Right. Yeah. And I think for me, the main difference would be, so for Springfest, a lot of times, if I found a card that was damaged or had some kind of like issue with it, I would just ask the player, can you replace this card, or could you like find somebody in the venue who has extra copies of this card? Even if it's not the same rarity, we'll take it. But I think in the future, like I don't even have to go through that step. If we have the proxies available, I'll just be like, okay, this card's damaged a little bit, right? I can see the edge, but like not a big deal, not like pattern marking. Let's just get you a proxy, and then we just move on.
Yeah,
we don't need you to like search the venue or anything like that, right? Or they don't have to like buy packs or some other weirdness.
And the other really particular cool thing about this like changed line I want to bring up is that it lets us proxy markers, which I've already been implicitly doing. Because like one of the big questions has always been, oh, what do I do if I don't have enough markers, or like if I ride an 8th time and I don't have an 8th force marker.
Right.
And the answer is always been you get a warning for insufficient tournament materials. And I would always tell people, and then you would get the marker that you need to get by being issued a proxy of some shape or form.
Right.
And so like that kind of was already implicitly been there. But I think like the fact that it's now codified is a nice little thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much agree. So that's how proxies work. Let's move on to the updates on the shuffling. So this shuffle update is also in the Japanese. And looks like, let's see here. Looks like it says the shuffling of cards in other zones other than the deck is just handled in the same way as the deck, and in situations where fighters are unable to handle one another's decks, such as tournaments conducted remotely, the fighter who shuffled will perform a cut by proxy as a confirmation, which is this new section, and it's basically is the 3 piles proxy cut that I guess Bushiroad has been kind of pitching ever since the first online Springfest. So just cut into 3 piles. The opponent specifies which order those 3 piles are stacked. Do you know how they do proxy cuts like this in other card games?
Not other card games. Like I don't think other card games have explicit rules for proxy cuts. I think it's just whatever people agree on.
I see.
Because like I know that in the Bushiroad remote fight server, when I used to hang around in there, whenever I played against Japanese players, the way they do proxy cuts is the guy would start like overhand shuffling and ask you to say stop.
Interesting.
Which is like super easy to abuse, which I never really liked.
Right. Yeah.
So at the same time, like I'm not sure how necessary it is to directly codify this, but I guess it's better than not.
Right. So I actually have an interesting story about this. So I played in a Yu-Gi-Oh online tournament recently, and do you know that all Yu-Gi-Oh players do remote cuts by specifying how many off the top? It's, to me, that's actually kind of insane. But yeah, I would just finish shuffling and they'll be like, okay, yeah, so just do like a halfway cut and then go 6 off the top. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's like they're just like, all they care about is like your starting hand and like nothing else for like the rest of the deck, right? Which is kind of
I guess
funny.
that kind of makes sense.
Right, because they just search immediately, right? In Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah.
Which I was like, wait, that's actually super neat. But in like for Bushiroad games, unfortunately, like that, you actually kind of need to cut the entire deck. Right?
I think it works for Weiss, especially during refresh, right?
It works for Weiss if the deck has like a search effect in first deck, But if it doesn't, then I mean, first deck order technically matters a lot.
Yeah, true. Like,
Yeah.
But again, like, because I know that I've seen people do like 3 off the top or 2 off the top only for refresh effects, which I guess like you're trying to get them to refresh a climax. Or something.
Yeah, I guess that also happens.
Yeah, I don't know, like if you consider that like questionable or like please don't do that, or like I mean people do it in real life as well, right?
Right. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's definitely fine.
Yeah, so I think like as long as if both players agree to it, I think we shouldn't force people to do 3 piles if they don't want to. Like if someone says like, oh, I just want you to do like X, Y, Z, it's fine. Or what about situations where you have like 2 cards left in deck? Like you say, do you want this one on top or do you want it on the bottom?
Right. And so I mean,
you can't do 3 piles. Like 4, like say 5 cards. And it's like, okay, I can do like a pile of 2, pile of 2, pile of 1, or I could just say, okay, put like the top 3 cards on the bottom. It's
right.
Convenience.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, chat. Lots of people saying hi right now. Just looking at the rules, it says that the 3 piles is an example of proxy cut procedure, and so there is other ways you can do a proxy cut, right? And I think that's just the one that Bushiroad is kind of like pushing, because I think it is a pretty good proxy cut for like most cases for Bushiroad games, because kind of like the whole deck order does matter to some extent.
Yeah.
And 3 stacks is like, it's pretty reasonable. Yeah. But
again, I guess it does also say like according to steps agreed upon by both fighters. So like as long as like you can both agree to like roll a dice and cut however deep the dice goes. if you both agree to it.
Right. As long as it's within appropriate time, right? So like
Yeah.
All right. So that's cool. I'm glad to see that properly codified, as you mentioned. Now let's move on to the big one, which is sleeves. All right, so looks like the sleeve section has been updated in JP a few months ago, I would say, like 2 months ago, and I was all about it because there's just so much here to unpack. So I think let me just go over it real quickly. So this first section here is just kind of like this a little blurb just to explain what it means to be able to distinguish cards, right? So I think. Yeah, a thing I got a lot was a lot of people coming up to me and showing me like slightly translucent solid color sleeves and being like, are these okay? And I would be like, yeah, of course, they're fine, right? But then they would ask, like, even if the backs are like slightly visible, I'm like, well, as long as they're all the same, right? It doesn't matter if it's visible or not, right? And I think so this red text here, it's just to clarify, right? As long as they seem to be indistinguishable, then it's fine, right? But if there's any kind of distinguishable like feature through the sleeve, then obviously that's not allowed. And then
I've been going the other way.
Really, you have?
Like, leniency. Yeah, like if like so for example, the big culprit here for me is I don't remember what the exact name is, but there's a particular dark blue dragon shield.
Yeah.
That is like it's barely like you can see the card shape through the back, but it's very hard to see like the word Vanguard or like the word Weiss Schwartz on the back. But if you put like small size Bushiroad art sleeves in them, you can very clearly see the art of the sleeve through those.
Okay.
And those I've been generally saying no to because like it's not like fully opaque. Like to me it has to be like fully opaque.
Right, so from what I understand, other trading card games have a rule where your sleeves have to be fully opaque. But I don't believe Bushiroad has that in their floor rules. Like, I don't think they actually care if their sleeves are fully opaque. So I've been going by that. Because, even if it's like not fully opaque, as long as like they can't cheat with it, I don't really care. But yeah, it's just good that they're kind of explaining a little bit more what it means for differences in like distinguishability between cards, because like the old floor rules use this word distinguishable and it just like didn't explain it at all. So it's just good that they're kind of going into detail with what counts as distinguishable for the red text. Yeah, so that's the first part. Second part is now we are allowing So they're disallowing 4 or more sleeves on all Bushiroad TCGs, which means that Vanguard is finally allowed to triple sleeve, which is something I think players have been asking for years at this point.
I've never heard of anyone asking for that. In fact, like, I've seen more responses of who the hell would triple sleeve a Vanguard deck.
Really?
Than I have like, oh yeah, we can finally triple sleeve.
I mean, I think all the Bermuda players who with their like super high rarity stuff is just like they're all like very happy. Those like the people I hear the most, I guess, joy from.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is weird, right? Because perfect fits are actually really bad for SPs. Like the tightness of the perfect fit sleeve like can actually damage like textured foils.
Oh really?
Yeah, so that's why like if your deck is like super high rarity, like like full LSR or whatever, I would really like recommend against it, which is the main reason people like go like regular sleeve into an oversleeve.
Right.
But if your deck is like low rarity, like all triple Rs and below, then yeah, perfect fits are fine.
Well, in any case, it is kind of weird that Vanguard was like the only one that was double only, and definitely had some like confusion with players about that. So I mean, it's just nice that they're all 3 now, just like no complications with whatever. It clarifies that we cannot use opaque sleeves on top of opaque pattern illustration sleeves. This one's kind of weird, so they didn't translate this one.
It's worded very weirdly. Yeah.
Right, they didn't translate this one like ideally.
I think they're missing an or, I think, before illustration.
Yeah. So basically, what this is disallowing is like if you have a character sleeve, you can't use an opaque sleeve on top of that. But apparently, you can use an opaque sleeve on top of an opaque sleeve. Not that I would know why or how.
I don't know if they even make opaque oversleeves, right?
So they don't. So Bushiroad or official companies don't, but I have seen custom opaque oversleeves that are like within regulation. So in fact, actually, it's a pretty crazy story. At Houston, some guy came up to me and showed me their deck, right? They're like, and this was like the last Springfest. So at this point, most of NA had wisened up to the fact that we were not allowing standard size sleeves as the second layer. And so they showed me a deck, and immediately I was like, okay, your oversleeves are opaque. So these are clearly Dragon Shields, right? Like standard size. And then I like look at it, and I'm just like, wait a second. These are way smaller than Dragon Shield. Like these are clearly not Dragon Shields, but they're opaque. I'm like, where'd you get these sleeves from? And the guy introduced me to one of the players at the venue who makes custom oversleeves in a dimension that work both as the first layer for Weiss and the second layer for Vanguard. And he showed me his dimensions, and it's like it's actually like within the 6mm for both card games. It's like a unique specified dimension that like other games aren't using.
See, that's weird. Like, that doesn't sound right to me, because to me, small size oversleeves should be, 61.5? But no, 64 by 91.5.
Right.
Which is which is too small to be a perfect fit for a Weiss card.
Correct.
So, because like I know people that use Dragon Shield make this standard size perfect fit with a dark backside.
Right.
Which is called Dragon Shield Smokes. And they make those so that people can use double-faced magic cards in sleeves.
Right.
So I know that they exist, and I know that people have been using perfect fits as the second layer of Vanguard sleeves for a while, which is also not okay, because they're too short and also too flimsy. So, like, I can't imagine putting a Weiss card in a Vanguard oversleeve. So that sounds quite weird to me.
Right. It was weird. I was actually pretty baffled, but I like checked the measurements and they were like exact. Like I don't know how this guy managed to make it work. I think I have his website still. I like might order some like for science later. But yeah. So apparently this guy was like either local to Houston or he had like his business was pretty popular, and like numerous people at this tournament were using these sleeves, and they were actually like pretty good quality. Like I have to say, they were like they felt sturdy, good make, really like nice clean matte, and I allowed them because technically speaking they were within the what do you call it, the dimensions, and they weren't like licensed or anything. I mean, it's just like a good sleeve. So that was pretty interesting.
Sure.
And I think going forward,
this point does also illustrate the point I was saying before about how there was this guy with blue dragon shields over art sleeves, and you could see the art through the blue, even though you couldn't normally see the card back through the blue.
Right.
So I think this does a good job of curbing that.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's I mean, it's nice that I guess again we have the regulation for that, and then the last one, excessively large sleeves. I think there was this used to be a different wording. Let me check the original wording. The wording was what was it? The wording used to be sleeves that are deemed to be excessive and affects the progress of matches, and they've changed it to excessively large sleeves or sleeves in which the position of the card within is not stable, that allows the fighter to distinguish the card. So basically just the way we've been explaining why you can't use excessively large sleeves, they're just putting in the rules, which is nice.
What's interesting about this though is that if you very quickly go to the fighters rule page of the Vanguard website, and you scroll towards the bottom of that, there's this chart that they copied from the JP website that I really hate, and it loathes me to draw attention to it. But that chart, if you scroll down, you'll see that.
Let me pull this up on the stream real quick. Give me a second. All right, here we go. This is the fighters rules, right? I'm on the fighters rules. We're scrolling all the way down, and we hit the chart. Here we go. First layer, second layer, right? This one.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you go down a little bit more at where it says it's actually both of these charts, right? It states that you might actually be able to use some of the blocks are saying that you can use standard size sleeves for Vanguard cards, and I really don't like this. I really don't like this.
Yeah, so let me figure out this chart. So opaque sleeves made from mini size cards should be used for the first layer of sleeves, not include the inner sleeves. What are the colors here? I'm so confused. If you wish to use opaque sleeves for the regular size cards, marked in blue. So blue is regular.
Yes.
And mini is red.
Yes.
I see.
So red is specifically small size art sleeves, and blue is specifically standard size any type of sleeves, illustrated or artwork or flat color. And there are multiple boxes here where it says you can use standard sleeves. I really don't like. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Because for example, this top chart, the bottom line of the top chart is saying you can put say black dragon shields,
right, and
then use standard size black dragon shields as oversleeves, which is definitely not okay.
Yeah, that's super weird. What? This is so weird. This just goes against what they put in the rules. But,
yeah, exactly, right?
Super strange. Anyways, yeah, this chart's kind of strange. I mean, at the end of the day,
it gets even better because look at the bottom line of the second chart.
Okay, so we go from Vanguard sleeves to regular sleeves on the second layer to regular oversleeves.
Now, here's the thing, right? I sleeve up my G units in this way,
right?
But I'm willing to admit that shuffling my G units in that manner is just not they move it's not reasonable,
right?
So the fact that they allow I would allow it for G units because that's what I'm doing. But for the main deck, there's no way this should be allowed.
Right.
In fact, I'll send you a picture that you can, if you want to. I'll send it to you on Discord if you want to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Here's a G unit that I have that is sleeved in this way, and it's just from looking at this photo, you're like, this shouldn't be allowed. This just shouldn't be allowed.
Right.
Wait for it to upload.
No worries. Yeah, okay, so it says that down here, to prevent information on cards becoming difficult to read. Oh, here we go. Let me pull it up. Alright. Yeah, so your first layer is Vanguard, right?
Yeah.
And your second layer is Standard?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you see that? Do you see these? Holy shit. This whole section, right? This is so bad. This is so thick.
Yeah, I would never allow this for a main deck.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah,
So
this
the
is
fact
not,
that
it's
the
not
website
okay.
says that this is okay is like, I don't like this chart. Can we get rid of this chart, please?
Yeah, that's probably not. Nah, this isn't gonna fly. Like the oversleeve is, that's like the distance I would want to see, right? Between
Yeah, exactly.
2 layers, right? Like that, like nice 1mm or whatever. Yeah, this is ugly. Yeah. I mean, it does say here that it is if like the card sleeves are too large, then like there may be additional requirements on the usage of sleeves imposed by the tournament organizers or judges. In those cases, please use sleeves that comply with the additional guidelines, right? So we still do have.
It's always head judge discretion at the end
correct.
of the day, which is nice. Like we still have the fact that it's like the website says this, but you and I both know that this is not okay. So
Right. So yeah, so going to this section of excessively large, so they finally gave dimensions, right? Which is, I think this is the thing that I really wanted. I guess not for that long, because I didn't even know this was a problem until this year. But basically ever since Chicago, I was like, can we please just have strict definitions of like what sizes are allowed? And like the fact that they gave us this rule of thumb, the 6mm rule of thumb, I think it's just such a godsend, because
it's great.
Of specifically Dragon Shield oversleeves for Japanese size, because the bottom on those are just so long. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, why is the bottom? Oh, dude, I wish I had some.
No, the width as well. Like sometimes the width, like some batches I've had of the Dragon Shield Japanese size overs are the same width as standard size sleeves.
I mean, the quality control on those were just kind of bad overall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the width for me, in my experience, has been okay. It's just the bottoms. Like you sleeve it, and then the bottom it just like hangs super loose, and then it doesn't really get to shake too much, which is like, I guess is the one saving grace. But like you could totally just like manually shift it up and down, right? Which is like the whole reason why you don't want to use large sleeves.
And like if people put them in like the vertical deck boxes, as they move like around the room,
right? Yeah.
They're gonna shake their bag and cards will move up and down. Like, and while we're here slamming Dragon Shield, they also don't put the fucking measurements on the box.
Yeah, that's really annoying. For sure.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Actually,
like, at least Ultra Pro say like, oh yeah, our sleeves are X millimeter by X millimeter.
Right. I mean, that's why we're bringing calipers, right, next time. But
yeah, I've literally already bought a pair.
Nice. And dude, the story of sleeves for me is like Ultra Pro used to be pretty good actually. Especially when the Eclipses first came out. I bought like the first launch Eclipse. I was like, wow, these are amazing. And then they kind of like turned to shit. And so I was like, oh, okay, like I gotta switch brands. And I started using Dragon Shields. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, I love Dragon Shield mats. They're pretty good. And then recently, I've just felt like every box of mats I buy, at least like 5 of the sleeves are just unusable. Like just like factory damage or whatever. And then the rest of it is just like, it just doesn't feel as good. So I'm like, man, I'm starting to be kind of low on Dragon Shield recently too. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, like I've had the same thing. Like I've recently moved on to Game Genic. Like I like literally right now, I have more EDH decks sleeved in Game Genics than Dragon Shields.
Wow.
And Game Genics are so like I love Game Genics because like you know how like the old Ultra Pro mats had that like smooth cloudy front.
Yeah.
Like I really like that smooth powdered mat instead of like the textured embossed mat. And Game Genics have the smooth powdered mat front.
Okay.
Which is like Dragon Shield don't do that at all. Like Dragon Shield fronts are always crystal clear,
they're
which
clear,
I'm not a fan of. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. The Game Genic's like, oh, this is perfect.
Okay.
And like I've been saying this for a while now, but the moment Game Genic makes small size sleeves, I will recommend that and only that for the rest of my life.
Okay, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking for some replacements for Dragon Shields nowadays. Yeah. Anyway, so back to the size. So this does mean that so for Springfest and NA, and I'm pretty sure you guys did this in EU too, but we basically put a hard rule starting from Chicago saying that if you're playing a standard size game, you use standard size sleeves. If you're playing a mini size game or a Japanese size game, you're using Japanese sleeves. And we were just like just draw the line there. That's pretty clear cut, right? I just wanted like no ambiguity, no weird like.
Yeah, like if you're playing Vanguard, you cannot use standard size sleeves. Full stop. That's
correct. That's what we did for Springfest. Now with these new rules, technically we would, if we were following these rules, we would change it to your sleeves had to be within 6 millimeters, which is a lot more ambiguous than just saying, you know, mini size card games use mini size sleeves, right?
Yeah, so I like it's a step in the right direction, but I think it's not all the way there. Like, you know, I said, for example, perfect fits, standard size perfect fits are definitely within 6 millimeters,
Right.
but they are not appropriate because most most mini size regular sleeves are a bit like standard size perfect fits are too short to act as oversleeves, and because the material is softer, the corners will damage more easily, so they'll become marked more easily.
Right.
Like that's one reason where that's one example where it's within 6 millimeters, but it's still not appropriate.
Right.
And I think like while we work out these kinks and edge cases, there's gonna be a bit of backlash.
For sure. So I obviously
my main complaint about this section, I'm just noticing it now. But if you look at all, like, you know, so the measurements are examples of unrecommended combinations.
Correct.
But nowhere in this entire page does it specify what are recommended dimensions for small size regular sleeves are.
Yes. Wait, that's kind of
it's insane to me, right?
That's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, like so small size sleeves should be, actually no, it does say it says it once, which is 62 by 89. Those are small size sleeves.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Yeah, 6289. Yeah, right there. Yeah, basically, it's just 3 over what you're using, right?
Yeah, 2 to 3. Is what
it's
I'd
like
say.
It's basically that's the ideal.
In some cases 4, because I think dragon shields are like taller than Bushiroad sleeves, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Like, I know dragon shields have a lot of gap along the top, which is one of the reasons I stopped using it for magic, actually.
Yeah. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you know why I think they didn't specify what to do rather than what not to do? It's because, like, this sleeving issue isn't just like an NA or like a global issue. Like, it's a Japanese issue as well. Like, they've actually been sleeving kind of haphazardly for like years as well, and it's just like nothing that I guess they're now addressing it, but I imagine like there are some Japanese players that are like indignant and like unwilling to like use Japanese size sleeves for like Vanguard or something.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've played in a few Japanese locals, and I've had people playing like Vanguard cards single sleeved in standard size Bushiroad art sleeves, and it's like it feels wrong, and you're like, you kind of want to call it out, but at the same time, you don't want to be that foreigner.
Right. But like, so like that's why I'm imagining like that's why even in the Japanese rules they're not like clearly being like use this because they don't want to get their players upset. But like, I don't care, right? Like, I just want this game to be fair, man. So
I mean, it also doesn't help that like small size oversleeves are becoming impossible to find nowadays.
Correct, right? Which is a little. I think that was the hard part.
Making oversleeves for some weird reason.
That's like the big issue that I ran in the tournaments for Springfest was the players were just like, well, I want to use 2 layers, but I have nothing that's legal for the second layer, and I was just like, well, for this tournament, unfortunately, like, tough luck. But like in the future, like, hopefully you can like find adequate sleeves, which is why that guy who made those sleeves in Houston, I'm actually pretty supportive of that, because like he is like fulfilling a market need and his quality is good. So like there's no reason for me to be like, yeah, we can't use these, like, you know. In fact, I always support that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's like, you know, using art sleeves is a privilege, not a right. You know, if you want to use art sleeves, you have to like, you know, either pay the extra cost or go through the extra effort. You know, like it's like if you can't ensure that the art sleeves you're using are up to code, then, you know, like we're not gonna bend the rules for you, basically.
Right. So basically, TLDR for sleeves, if you're here just to figure out what sleeves are allowed, if you want to be safe, just use the size prescribed by your game, right? So if you're a Vanguard, if you're playing Vanguard, just use Vanguard size sleeves for every layer, right? For like the inner sleeves, regular sleeves, outer sleeves. However, if your sleeves are just like, we'll be checking your sleeves at the tournament. You can always come up to a judge before the tournament starts, ask for a deck check, like a sleeve check or something like that. If you're using something like a Dragon Shield Vanguard size oversleeve, there is a potential, because of factory defects or like the quality, that it might not be allowed because it's over 6mm, right? So you just have to be, I say you just have to be aware of these things. If it doesn't feel right to you, it's probably not going to feel right to us. And just always bring extras, basically. That's all I can really say on this matter. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. All right. Anyways, but I'm super glad. This is a huge step in the right direction from where we were before, which was literally no information.
Yeah.
All right. So scrolling all the way down, page 23, we're now going into the infractions. So these infractions are also pretty interesting, I think, to talk about, because definitely, like, if we had these changes before Springfest, I would have done a few things differently, which is saying a lot. I mean, these are pretty big changes. So yeah, they're adding 8 items, right? So this is section 312. It's a new section, which is did not bring required 8 items, right? So not bring tokens, using dice as proxy for markers did not bring enough. And it looks like it's a caution at level 1 and a caution to a warning at level 2. So I think the big thing about this, so we already talked about the proxy aspect, which is like, let's say you're playing V, right? You ride on your starting Vanguard, like try to obtain quick shield, no quick shield, right? So now obviously we would issue a proxy for your quick shield. But I think the big thing is that for level 2 and above, it still can be counted as a caution. It does not have to upgrade to a warning, right?
Which is weird, because I would usually default to a warning. And
Right.
I would consider the caution the downgrade, right? I'm trying to think of myself, when would I downgrade this to a caution? And I'm really struggling to find scenarios.
Well, so my question here is, let's say a player comes up to you before tournament starts and goes, hey, I accidentally left my quick shield at home. Can I still play the tournament? Will I get DQ'd? Or DQ is not the right word. Will I be given a game loss at any point during this tournament? What would you say to this player? With the new rules, with the new floor rules.
I would just issue them the proxy then and there.
Right. But then, so once you issue the proxy once, would that be a one-time warning, or would that be a warning every time the player has to use a proxy, or would that be, like what would be the punishment level for that?
I guess if they came up to me like as they were registering, or before round 1 started,
Right.
then I wouldn't give them. That would be a caution, right? That wouldn't be a formal penalty because they've noticed it ahead of time and it hasn't caused an issue. I guess. So yeah, I guess my criteria for downgrade is it's noticed outside of a game.
Right.
Let's say they went first round 1, and then in between round 1 and 2 they're like, oh, I don't have a quick shield. Again, that would just be a caution.
Right.
I guess the other way to spin it is that I would only upgrade to a warning when it is affecting the game.
Correct.
I think that's probably the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
But again, this is something that we've said. Again, I've been ruling this implicitly for a while, even though it wasn't actually in the rules. I've just been calling it insufficient tournament materials. Which I guess covers things like a pen or whatever.
I guess so, yeah.
But I would never give a warning or like a game loss for not having a pen.
Right. So the way we ruled this in NA was illegal game state.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, right, because this was not codified at all, right? So basically, the ruling that we came up with and was you ride on top of starting Vanguard, right? And you mandatory effect, obtain a quick shield. There's no quick shield to be obtained, right? So the first time it's a legal game state, unintentional legal game state, right? We go, okay, so warning, and then try to obtain a quick shield, and then I guess we kind of we didn't know that there was the proxy ruling, so we just kind of just been like, yeah, you have a quick shield, freaking use a proxy or whatever. If this happens again in your second game because you still don't have a quick shield, then it would potentially upgrade to a game loss.
So they would have to find a quick shield in between those 2 rounds.
Correct.
Yeah, that's yikes.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair,
what do you do if they can't? What do you do if they can't find an appropriate proxy or anything else? Do they just have to do you just have to let them play without a quick shield? That's a
no. We definitely just had them play with a proxy for a quick shield, like just like they have a quick shield. We managed to make it work for that, but we definitely did categorize that as a legal game state, just because there's like nothing in the rules that specify like what happens when you don't have like a card that is like a mandatory part of your deck, right?
Right. Okay. Right. I guess. That's
so
kind
like
of weird because like I don't, for example, Magic, right?
Right.
If you're like, even if you're playing like a Seeker's Chariot or like you're playing a token-based deck in Magic, if you don't bring the right tokens, you will never be penalized for not having the right tokens.
Right. But that's Magic, right? That's like that's the game that like freaking has like land, like there's like lands at the freaking tournament site because you know it's like a completely different type of game.
Yeah, true.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
I guess
Whereas like this is like completely different. So I don't know. I think that was pretty hard for us to call, but there was also like I just felt like the rules didn't give us any provision to do anything differently without just like
making up rules like I do.
Right. And I'm not as comfortable doing that.
I can see how you got to like I get how you got to where you got to. So, like,
yeah.
Like it kind of makes sense. It's just
right.
It does feel weird.
So what I ended up doing, I think, was we actually came up with that ruling like pre-COVID, I believe. And then we actually ruled that we did that for the online Bushiroad tournaments. And what I ended up kind of doing for Springfest was I would say I would recommend them, of course, again, like if you find a quick shield, just like please just find a quick shield, right? Like it can't, you know, just ask anybody in the video if they have a quick shield. But I would say that like you could potentially get multiple warnings and I would just not have them upgrade.
Right.
Of the same kind. And then you know, eventually like, you know, like if they want to keep playing and it doesn't upgrade, you know, they can just keep playing. Right. I don't think I ever upgraded it to a game loss officially for this Springfest. Yeah, I would just tell them like it could upgrade to a game loss, but then I don't think I ever did. Yeah.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah. But then now, thank God we have this new section, and now I don't have to ever give a game loss for insufficient markers. Thank God. That's huge.
Yeah. One also really cool line is that I want to draw attention to is the first example and the specific wording of it, which is did not bring the tokens used by their deck.
Right.
Which means that if you're playing against like Chaos or Gridora or whatever, and you don't have like Cradle markers or Force markers, that will not that doesn't count as did not bring required aid items.
Correct. Right. And you know, I actually had a player this Springfest call me over as a judge and ask me if I could penalize their opponent for not having force markers when they use Chaos. And I was hold up. Okay, first of all, you asked me to penalize your opponent. That's just straight up like unsportsmanlike behavior. Like, right? Okay, dude. But yeah, and I was just like, no, it's like it's your deck. It's your effect. You need to bring the cards for this. Like, do you have force markers? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, then let your opponent use it. Holy shit. What are you trying to do, sir? Yeah, that was wild. I can't believe a player actually thought that.
I would absolutely have warned that player just for even asking for a penalty.
I did. I was like, you're not allowed to tell a judge to penalize your opponent. Are you okay?
Yeah, that's...
Holy. Yeah. Wild stuff. Anyways, yeah. If your deck is doing the effects, you need to bring the markers. That's just common sense, right? So, anyways, so the next part is in black. They actually did not highlight this in red. So 3.1.3 is a new section. They ported that over from 3.111, I think. I believe they didn't change anything though. But basically, mark cards and sleeves are now, I guess, categorized in this like the deck section rather than the like as a like gameplay section, which I think is like it makes sense, right? Because we're really checking these during deck check, not during actual like gameplay. So it makes sense that it's just right here. I do not believe that they change any of the wordings. Let me double check here. I'm pretty sure they did not change the wording.
Section in the old section.
Oh yeah. They didn't change the wording. It's just they changed the order. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Next section, forgetting to resolve automatic abilities. All right, this is actually pretty big. So I was talking about this with some friends yesterday night. This new section in red, it says if the timing for the automatic ability to resolve has passed and hence affects the game state, please refer to section 3.3 illegal game state above. So I've been doing this basically already, but what this basically states is that there's no such thing as accepted game state, right? There's no such thing as like, oh, it passed. Oh, both players agreed that, you know, like this current game state is like, it is what it is, right? Like your opponent accepted the game state, like there's no fixing it, right? No, of course there is a fixing it. We're freaking fixing it. Yeah, I've definitely had some players like try to argue that, where like, oh, my opponent didn't catch it, therefore like this illegal but advantageous position for me is allowed, right? I'm like, no, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my issue with this particular red text is that it states if the timing for the ability to resolve has passed and hence, and it doesn't specify that time frame. Because like the way I've been doing this is that if it's within one turn cycle, i.e. I forget something in my battle phase and it's now your battle phase.
Sure.
We can still, like, in my opinion, that's still, you know, potentially repairable. But if it's like, you know, oh, this was 2 turns ago, then yeah, that's now an illegal game state. But, you know, I'm not sure how that fits here, because I've always been going by, you know, if it's like, if you've got to do something in your main phase and it's now your battle phase, like, I think in most scenarios, you and I would say like, okay, yeah, this is pretty easy to rewind and fix.
Right.
But they're not clear on what timing means. Like, does it mean like immediately, or does it mean, you know, a turn ago or whatever? Right.
Right. So I mean, the whole illegal game state section has like minor, moderate, and major to kind of cover that, right? And it's not hard because I think there's some abilities that if it's even just one phase that passes would just be already irreparable, right? Like I went over this in another video on this channel, but basically like if you like level up and if you take damage with the last cards in your deck and then accidentally level up before refreshing, that's just instantly irreparable, right? No matter like when it was reported, because like you did not take the damage, does not go to your clock immediately, therefore you're not allowed to level up before refreshing. So if you did it in that order, like we can't repair this anymore. So like I think what this red text is basically saying is that like basically it's saying that automatic abilities that need to resolve must resolve. There's no like, oh, it just failed to resolve kind of thing, right?
Right, you repair it wherever possible.
Correct. Whereas I think before, especially among players, there's like this notion that like if a player forgot an automatic ability, it would just be accepted game state and their opponent would walk away with the advantage.
Yeah, like I forgot to get a marker on riding. I'm just gonna live without that marker. Yeah,
right.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
And, like, I've been repairing it that way for a while. Like I actually had in London, you know, some guys called me over and was like, "Oh yeah, Judge, my opponent just pointed out that in my last turn, I didn't get a force marker on ride." And I was like,
correct.
Get one right now. And the opponent was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, get one right now. You have to get a marker."
Right.
And I was like, he was kind of upset. I was like, "No, I mean like that you have to get a marker. Like I don't know what you want me to say."
Right, exactly. So I think so. The section before, right? All I said was if any automatic abilities were overlooked, right, and then judge comes, resolve it by the next check timing. If that automatic has a may, it is considered to not have resolved, right? But I think that's pretty lenient, right? Like let's say they forgot some mandatory effect and it actually like greatly affected the state of the game, right? Then like it's basically saying like there's no such thing as accepted game state. Please go to legal game state, and if it's really serious, that could be a game loss, rather than just like being contained in like the warning section, right?
Yeah.
Basically, if you realize something's wrong with automatic abilities, get a judge to come over because there's gonna be a pretty serious rewind usually, right? It's not just something that you can like, oh, it looks like we both forgot, whatever, you know, like,
yeah. There is one other clarification I wish they would make here in the 3 illegal game state sections.
Yeah.
Which is something that Magic did recently.
Uh-huh.
Which is beneficiality.
Oh, interesting.
And like, I know this is like a whole can of worms that I don't want to spend too long with because I don't want to waste too much time. But Magic has now they've come up with a way to classify all triggers as being beneficial or detrimental. And obviously, if you forget a detrimental ability, the penalty is greater.
Correct.
Right? And they've done it in such a way that theoretically ignores context. Like, so to use a Magic example, right?
Right.
Like, how well do you know Magic?
I play Magic.
Okay, so you know Bob, right?
Yes, of course I know Bob.
So Bob, they've classified as no matter what life you're on, no matter what deck you're playing,
Sure.
Bob is always an advantageous trade.
Correct. Yes, that makes sense.
So even if you're on 1 life and you forget to Bob,
You must
like
Bob.
that's not a penalty.
Well, that's not a penalty, right? Okay, because
It's not like yeah.
I see.
And if it's within the turn cycle, you will still resolve Bob. But if it's like
Right.
if the timing is past the year, you don't resolve Bob.
Interesting.
The fact that Bob could lose you the game is not considered detrimental.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. That's a little wild. It might be too spicy for a Bushiroad card game catered towards little kids and elementary schoolers.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. No, but I actually don't know how I feel about that, especially in Weiss, because a lot of abilities are just like very neutral. Like they could be good, could be bad. It like actually doesn't. It's not actually clear if it's beneficial or not.
Like Zombie Zyka, right? Like it's. Like,
well, I mean, Zombie Zyka would be. Actually, that's actually.
Right?
Yeah, I would say that's always detrimental because it's like mandatory. But then like.
Yeah. There are times when it's good.
Right. Yeah. So it's complicated, and I think in Weiss it's like there's a lot of weird stuff. Like there's like on play like mandatory mill 3, which is like it could be anything, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if I would agree with like clearly delineating that, but I do think like I mean it does say here, right, if judge must correct game state with neutrality so that the fighter who has committed the infraction does not gain any advantage. So I feel like it's best just to leave it at like a case by case kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like the current minor, moderate, major already handles that to an extent. I just feel like it'd be nice if it was like specified, like like judge can determine, or like maybe whether or not judge should take context into account when saying like, is this detrimental?
Right. Oh man, that's hard. I think that's just a judge preference actually. Right. I think it should be up to the judges, and each judge does stuff differently. Like when I judge, I'm pretty lenient in terms of like context. Like if a player is clearly indicating that they want to do X thing but like don't actually do it, then I'm pretty lenient. So like for example, this was a case at BRO, I believe, or was it Springfest? I think it was Springfest online, where a player plays Kurumi, like plays 3-2 Kurumi, goes into combat without playing the climax from hand that he has in hand, and then attacks with Kurumi and then discards 2, and I say, you have no climax. And then the player was like, oh, I just forgot to play this climax. Can I just play this climax, not stand by anything? And I was like, okay, well, yeah, because you clearly, like, even though you forgot the climax, like, doesn't actually change any soul values on board. You clearly discarded 2 with the intention to burn without realizing that you didn't have the climax. So, like, it wasn't like something where, like, oh, you could potentially, like, not play the climax, or, like, how to say, play the climax and not burn. Like, it wasn't a situation where, like, that was really a line. And I was like, yeah, I'll just give that a warning. Like, don't do that again.
Right, because there's no strategic advantage to be gained.
Right, exactly.
I think that's fair.
But then I know other judges in NA who would not allow that, right? But I think that's fine. Like, I wouldn't disagree necessarily in terms of like if another judge ruled that way, I wouldn't be like, that's objectively wrong, right? But I would be like, nah, that's not how I would do it, right? I would be lenient on this aspect of the game.
Yeah, which I guess you could argue that that's not ideal, like, because then players are at the mercy of like, oh, did I get a nice judge? Did I get a, did I get a mean judge?
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it's because it's hard to, because I understand both sides of that, and at the end of the day, it's like that's kind of how sports works, like just in general, even like actual sports, right? Like home court advantage is a thing because your referees are literally more lenient towards you, right? So it's just like, I feel like you can't really take away that aspect of judging entirely. So I just don't try to fight it.
That's fair, yeah.
And my solution is just be a better judge than them, so I can be head judge instead of them. Easy. All right, moving on. 311, improper shuffle. Okay, this one's kind of spicy. I want to know what your take on this is. So, this used to be game loss.
I think so, yeah.
The craziest thing is that this was never game loss in Japan, if I recall correctly. I don't think this was ever a game loss in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw around racist accusations. But having played in a fair number of Japanese locals and played on the Bushiroad remote fight server, like I mentioned earlier about like how Japanese players cut, like
right.
And I think like the two of us as Weiss players know this as well. But the Japanese approach to shuffling is definitely a lot more lax.
Right.
And so like I get why, but I do think it does feel very weird. Because in a way, like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if my Japanese culture to say this, but I feel like improper shuffling in Japan is very rarely cheating, whereas improper shuffling in the West is almost always cheating. And it's hard to pin that down, right?
Right. Yeah. So are you familiar with what happened at BRO in NA? This the last
Not
BRO?
in NA.
Oh yeah. So we had a case of improper shuffle on stream. That was kind of interesting. So it was actually my fault in the sense of I didn't catch it at the time. So basically, I was stream judge, and this player, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to describe it. Let me see if I can get a deck here. So the player was shuffling his cards in a really weird way, where he was holding his cards like he was holding his cards vertically. He was holding them like this, and like this is the mat, and he was holding it like this and shuffling like this. Like this, like literally exactly like this, right? This angle.
Okay.
And I was like, man, that's such a weird way to shuffle. And then I was thinking, can this guy is this guy cheating? And then I thought, well, he's facing his cards away from himself, so he's looking at his card back, right? I'm like, oh, I guess he can't really see his cards then. And he was just like, like playing it like this. He was like. And he like brings them together like this, right? And I was just like, well, I guess he can't see his cards, so it's fine. And then 10 minutes later, I get a message and from this guy who was watching the stream, and he goes like, are you watching the stream? Like, are you judging? I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, this guy's like shuffling hella sus, right? I'm like, well, I mean, he can't see his cards. And then he goes like, well, no, the cards are on screen, like they're on his camera. And then I go, oh, he can see his camera. And then I was like, oh no. Oh no, because I was like, yeah, that looks weird, but he can't physically see his cards. But then I forgot that the webcam sees his cards and he can just look at his computer screen. And
right.
Yeah, so I didn't catch that in the moment, which was like a huge miss on my part. But what ended up happening was the player actually got retroactively, I believe he got disqualified. And he was his record was scrubbed out of top 8 because they like reviewed the VODs and they determined that was like sufficiently improper. Yeah, and so he did get DQ'd. But yeah, and I think at the time I was really beating myself up for it because improper shuffle was a game loss. Like that was actually huge, like a huge miss on my part, right? That I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
But now that it's suddenly a caution warning, is like, oh, that's kind of weird now. It definitely leaves a weird taste in my mouth. Being like, well, now technically, even if I did catch it, it's technically just a warning, man. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it being brought down to a caution or warning. If you use the benefit of the doubt argument,
right?
I would just like for them to keep the option of like, especially like with this red paragraph, right, where they say like, oh, it like affects foul, it considered foul play, blah blah blah. Like, they should at least say like, judges have the discretion to aggressively upgrade this to like game loss.
Right. I think so too.
Yeah. Well, like they should say like, if you do consider it foul play, move to cheating or whatever. Like,
right.
That's not like, if they make that clear, I would be okay with that.
Right, exactly.
Because I remember in London, I was watching a game because it was two guys I knew, and they're caught up in heat of the moment. They're having fun. They're playing their game, and they're both like 0x. Neither of them have any chance of making top 8, but they're just having fun. And one of them just like does 2 or 3 mass shuffles and then offers the cut. And I was like, I want to like let me mass shuffle that like 4 or 5 more times.
Right.
And they're like, okay, yeah, sorry, sure. And I was like, I'm gonna caution you. Like I know that you guys have no chance of making top 8. You guys just playing for fun, but please do it properly. Because everyone has to do it properly.
Right.
And I was like, and at the time, like, again, that it was still technically loss of game. I was like, like in this case, it's fine to downgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same vein, like, or I guess on the other side of the coin, I think this is one of those things where intent like changes everything, right?
Right. Because it's again, I totally agree with you. Like maybe they're not too aware of like how bad it is in the West, but like, and I would agree that in Western card games, a bad shuffle is almost entirely indicative of cheating, right?
Yeah.
So I do agree that like this. That I would potentially reserve, like if I had one hill to die on, I would be like, yeah, if I think it's cheating, I would upgrade this. I will say though that in person, I'm actually kind of down to just leave it as a warning because I can then judge shuffle their deck, right? But online, I can't judge shuffle their deck. So like if I think they're doing a sus shuffle, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to instruct them on how to shuffle? Like how am I supposed to do that, right? So like
I would consider doing that at least once.
So I did that for this guy, like after I realized that his shuffles were bad, and we delayed the stream game by 15 minutes.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, because I had to teach this guy how to shuffle, dude. Or like it was so cringe. Oh my. Yeah, dude, it was such an experience. Like 200 people in Twitch chat watching a guy in top 4 learning how to shuffle.
Oh
man,
God.
that was crazy.
That's funny. That's funny.
It was definitely pretty funny in hindsight.
Because there are some cases where you have to take it into context, right? Like if it's like a 15-year-old kid and this is like clearly his first major tournament,
right?
And he's only doing overhands,
right?
Like he definitely doesn't know better.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to this day, I would still like to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, because like he wasn't like, I think cheaters, like if they get caught, they have a certain way of like, responding, and he didn't really respond in a way that made me think like he was cheating per se, but it was definitely not a fun time. It was definitely pretty suspicious too. So yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, so anyways, so now the shuffle rules are updated. You technically cannot get a game loss for bad shuffling, but if you're cheating, I will game loss you. I will kick you out, right? It's just DQ. All right. Yeah. Unnecessary use of electronic devices in a match. So this one, it's just funny. Do you see how it says loss of game here? Yeah, this was a warning before.
Yeah, they didn't make this red.
This has been caution warning loss of match in JP for like a long time, and they just never updated this in NA. So I forgot who I talked to, but they told me that apparently Japan has like a history, or like has had cases where this has happened, and that's why it's more severe in the Japanese rules, but they like just, I guess, never really brought it over. I mean, that's pretty much a Bushiroad, the way they operate, right? Modus operandi. It's like if they encountered a specific situation where they got burned, they like immediately kind of like create measures to like either prevent that or to like penalize that harsher, right? That's like the whole reason we had the whole mat on front only thing. It was like actually a spur of the moment decision because they got burned from having like marked mats, right?
Sure.
So that's why. So apparently in Japan, electronic devices are definitely like they got burned by it once. We can presume, yeah. But I mean, like, I think this is, I don't think I've had a issue with this in NA yet. Like, I don't think anybody has cheated with an electronic device. But
the closest I've come has been someone I know. Like, he plays DI.
Okay.
But he also, he has difficulty with numbers.
Right.
And so he's asked me, like, can I bring like a scientific calculator to track my soul and power gains? And I was like, scientific calculators should be okay because it's realistically just a counting device.
Right.
And he was like, he was really like paranoid about the rules about electronic devices. I was like,
right.
You should, I'm giving you express permission as the head judge that a scientific calculator will be fine.
Right.
And he was like, what about a calculator on the phone? And I was like, that's a bit more of a gray area.
Correct.
I guess like as long as you keep it on the calculator, it's probably fine. But yeah, it's one of those ones where like the potential for like I can see the potential for abuse. So I'm definitely like not against it.
Right. So for like it's the main thing is just communication, right? So like if you can receive messages from somebody else telling you XYZ thing, right? If you have like a friend behind your opponent telling you what's in their hand, even if it's in like code or something, you know, like I don't know, the links that people go through.
Texting it to your smartwatch or something.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I've just said like phones off the table. You know, if you have a smartwatch, you know, disable it or like take it off or whatever. And then calculators are fine, right? Like a scientific calculator, unless you've managed to somehow program Wi-Fi and Facebook Messenger on your TI-84, then honestly, you shouldn't be playing this game. You should be at Google or something, you know.
I mean, I do have a graphing calculator, and that is internet connected, and I can receive net messages on my.
Okay, but that's not a TI-84. Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit more intense.
That's a bit more intense. I probably wouldn't allow a graphing calculator. That seems too much. Yeah.
Like I'd be lenient enough to say like you can have your phone on the table as long as it's strictly for like, you know, timekeeping or like, you say, like if you're playing,
I've just said no
Fight
phones. I've just said no phones. I'll stick with no phones. It's just it looks better too. Like at NA, because we actually have like Bushi people, I think we're a lot more careful about presentation. Like we want like if we're taking pictures and stuff like that, we want it to look good, right? So like if one of the Bushi staff walks around, takes a picture of the venue, you know, to show, like, put on the website or something like that, and Japan sees, like, us, the players having phones on their table, it's like, it's just not gonna go well at the next meeting, you know? So
yeah, that's fair.
So we're definitely a lot more stickler on that kind of stuff. All right, and then, let's see, anything else?
Yeah, 3.22.
That's about it, I think. Oh, one more? Okay. Oh, 22 others. I mean, I think this was on the old one as well. They just added some more stuff.
Yeah, they added this extra section.
Here. Yeah, so before it was 3.24. So they actually moved two of... Oh, they removed the Dragoborn section.
Yes.
If you
like
something's missing. Yeah, no, it's the Dragoborns are missing. And then before it was just like this last paragraph, and now they're adding this like extra stuff was like, and just like more like the intent of the 4 rules, right?
Yeah, spirit of the game.
Kind of nice. Spirit of the game.
I'm all in with. And like the second paragraph, I particularly like because I've heard of people like trying to be like, you know, I have had people asking me like, "Hey Ben, the floor rules technically say this. Does that mean I can do this?" I'm like, "No, you obviously cannot do this." Right.
Yeah. You know, as Shizuka says, just don't be a freaking rule shark. And that's basically it. Yeah, the rules are here to let everybody have fun and enjoy the game and compete competitively and fairly, not for you to like abuse for your own intensive purposes, right? And that's it, dude. That's everything. That's actually quite a lot, man. Again, I've been waiting for 1.0 or 1.2.0 for like months now, ever since they got this in JP. And they got this like pretty early on. Like they got this like right after Chicago, I recall. Because I remember like I judged Chicago, and then that's when I had like everybody re-sleeve, and then I was like, man, I really hope this gets added into the rules. And then like the week after I said that, in the judge Discord, like they added it, and I was just like freaking on top of the moon. So really happy to have this right before BRO, so we can have some better regulations going to BRO.
I think there is one thing missing from the sleeve section that I think I brought up that like it would be nice to have, which so in the sleeve section, I think it's not explicitly mentioned anywhere that for Vanguard that your ride deck has to be differently sleeved to your main deck.
Oh, is it not?
It is not. So it's written on the regulations page of the event pages.
Oh, right. Right, not in the floor rules. Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's strange. Oh, also for ride deck and stuff like that, do you like you don't check sleeves for those, right? Like I've never checked sleeves for those.
I check to make sure that they're licensed.
Oh yeah. but like
Yeah,
size and
that's
stuff
it.
like that. I'm just like within reason. Like I don't
Oh no,
check for markings and stuff like that.
I've had people top load there, right? I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Oh really? I would not let that. I think.
I mean, I do it.
Oh really? That's kind of wild.
Well, I mean, like it's fine, right? Because it's never entering any other zone.
I guess. I mean, I think if it just like creates an obstruction, or it's like if it gets weird. I think for top load again, it's like the presentation of it. Like if they top load it, like because some top loaders are really ugly, and like depending on how
I mean,
they like.
I think you've seen them before, but like I use those like small, like tight side loading.
Oh yeah,
ones
yeah.
with
The
top
side
load.
loaders are fine. I think those look nice. But like the if they're using like a standard size top loader for like a Vanguard.
Oh, the huge
card,
ones, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think I would allow that. That's just like.
But it's weird though, because
That's weird.
believe it or not, Bushiroad actually make official top loaders. Bushiroad make Vanguard top loaders.
They do.
And hang on, I have one. Let me
That's
take one
wild.
thing.
Oh, I
Let me
mean,
dig it
but
out.
those are probably like much smaller though, right?
No.
No?
Bro, let me hang on. Let me put a card next to it so you.
Wait, what?
I'll show you card for scale.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Hang on. One second.
Huh?
This is a real thing that I own and have yet to unpack because I think it's quite rare. But
Oh, really? Damn. Do they like not make them anymore or something?
well, it's one of those like lanyard top loaders, but it's huge, like actually huge.
I see.
But I would probably still allow this because it's like it's not massively in the way. I think.
Let's take a look. Oh, I see. Ah, that's pretty big, dude.
Right, but I would probably still allow this.
Man, I'd have to like see it in action before I say anything. But like, yeah, I don't know. So my favorite phrase is just within moderation or within reason. So like if it works and it's like fine, then like sure. But like if it like causes like a disruption or like issues, then I'm just gonna be like, yeah, nah, dude, just be normal, please, man. Like like you're at a tournament, you're not here to like do stupid like you can do this like at home or at your local card shop or online or something. If you want clout, go clout chasing on TikTok, right? Don't come to my tournament and like try to like do your own shenanigans. I mean,
like it is again, like it is something that I would like to. It's something that's hard to codify. Like for example, like again with like main deck, right?
Right.
Even for even in the old version of the full rules, it never said like Vanguard has to be main deck only, G zone quote unquote doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it's actually difficult, right? Because how like what do you define as G zone doesn't matter? Because we still can't like because you don't have to sleeve a G zone at all. You can just have your 16 card G zone unsleeved.
Right.
But if you use sleeves, it has to be within sleeve regulations.
Right, and it can't
like,
be the same as your main deck because then if it gets
Yeah.
mixed up, then you can cause a whole world of
Exactly.
issues, right? Yeah.
Like I actually had this issue where like because I told the judges, oh yeah, G zone doesn't matter. We ended up letting someone through who had Pokemon sleeves on their G zone, and they got through to top 8, and I was like, in the top 8, I was like, oh yeah, I need to take those over sleeves off because they're Pokemon and they can't have that.
Yeah. Whoops.
And like and again, like I didn't penalize them for it because we should have caught that and we didn't. And it's just a case of how much effort or how much like time do you spend doing the deck check on that stuff? Because obviously, like if you're checking like 200 players G zones, that's like an extra 30 minutes in registration or like in deck checks.
Yeah. No, we definitely can't check.
You got to find that balance.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think even still, this is a pretty big step for the floor rules, and then hopefully, like I think ever since the Judge Discord, we've had better communication with the Bushiroad staff, and we've been able to actually have like dialogue and back and forth about these things, whereas before it was literally just like one-way streets of like I send an email, they go thank you, and like nothing, right? But like now, like actually hearing back and having a dialogue is like it's so nice compared to literally nothing before. So like I think there's a lot more room to like improve with these regulations and stuff like that. But this is good. So for people, so BRO is literally this month, right? The first BRO is in 2 weeks.
The premium signups are already open.
Yeah. And yeah, so, you know, we will be following these new regulations for BRO. So hopefully...
Well, actually, BRO has even stricter regulations, remember?
For sleeves? Oh,
Yeah,
wait. Oh, shoot. Are we doing the... Oh, we're doing the no mats, though, right? For BRO.
No mats for BRO, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Damn. Okay.
Which is... Like, it's good that they're doing it in a, communicating that early.
Yeah.
But there are still going to be people that be like, oh, I didn't know
It's just matte over sleeves, though, right? Like, you can use normal matte.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But again, like, even that, like, is potentially confusing, right? It's like, oh,
right.
Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
So
oof.
I think it does overall solve more problems than it causes. But at the same time, like, if it were me, I would just allow matte oversleeves because a lot of times you can't tell anyway. Like, unless you ask the player, hey, can you bring your cards up to this to the camera so I can see them clearly?
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this to you, but when I was playing in BRO NA for V Premium, I was playing oversleeves that are matte on both sides.
Yeah.
And every round a judge came to my game and none of them noticed. So
right.
Like there's limited efficiency to that policy.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It is what it is. But anyways, we will be following these floor rules in addition to whatever other policies are in place for BRO. So yeah. So hopefully this stream was helpful for anybody watching, just to kind of get an idea of like what this actually means. I know it's like a lot of information and stuff, but hopefully hearing it actually kind of being discussed as we're like figuring out how we're going to implement these is helpful for you guys going to the tournaments. So yeah, that's basically all I really wanted to go over. If anybody had questions about Springfest, I would also answer those, but I don't really have much else to say about NA Springfest other than it actually went pretty well, and there's a lot of fake news on the internet about what I did. So yeah, just for the record, I did not disqualify anybody for having the wrong rarities. That's just literally fake news. That did not happen this Springfest. Maybe it happened like years ago. Like, that's freaking out of my control. I'm not a time traveler. I can't go back to fix that. But yeah, for Springfest, we didn't disqualify anybody for anything that was like even remotely like borderline. I think everything that was a game loss and deck check or like a deck fail was like pretty reasonable. And I basically okayed all of them. Like they all went through me. I saw the issue every single time, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely, grounds for a game loss here. And I freaking go to sleep at night with a clear conscience about that. So, I think we actually had a great run. It was really smooth. Like, we ended like the latest we ended any day was 7 p.m.
Oh wow, must be nice.
And the earliest, I think one day we finished at like 4 p.m. It was crazy. We were so efficient. We were like so fast that players were complaining that we were too fast. Imagine that.
I would like to trade places for this season.
Dude, I saw like this vlog of one of the content, like Wise content creators, and then the vlog they were like, yeah, like there was like too little time between rounds, and we were like done before we even like realized what was going on. Like, I wish they would like give us more time. And I'm like, what do you mean give you guys more time? Get the rest of the day off, dude. Go home already. Like, what is going on? Why are they complaining about this? It's wild.
Yeah, I think like we had the opposite problem. Like Spain and London both finished like 9 p.m.
Yeah, how the hell did that happen, dude?
For separate reasons. Like we had a lot of issues in Europe, which I've already discussed on my stream a while ago, and I don't want to like bring up the 20-minute discussion here now. But
no worries.
It's like in Europe, this season has been like, it started off nice, and then like towards the end, it got really stressful, mainly because of a lack of mainly just because of a lack of human staff.
Yeah,
it's definitely not been smooth. Like, I've tried to maximize efficiency, but it has definitely come at the cost of some player experience, which in hindsight I regret. Or like, there's stuff that I let slip, or stuff that happened under my watch that shouldn't have happened, which I do regret and I've learned from. But yeah, I definitely cannot say with a clear conscience that EU has been a smooth season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely in terms of like our tournament running, I think it's been pretty smooth. We had some repairs because of like clerical issues. Dude, apparently judges, like no matter how many times I teach them how to do matchups, they cannot for the life of them circle the winning player. Like I don't understand how this is like so difficult. But yeah, anyways, so we've had some clerical issues. I mean, that just happens with like new staff, right? Because most of the old NA staff and volunteers, they've just like stopped. Like we basically have a fresh batch now. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, like even with like basically new Bushi staff and new like judges, runners, and volunteers, like this went like far better than I expected. And then rulings wise, I got most of it right. I did have some sus rulings that I'm like a little bit beating myself up on nowadays, but most of them I corrected on the day as well, which is good. And then none of them affected top. So yeah. So for the most part, I think NA did really well. So if you have any complaints, feel free to come at me. But like for the most part, you know, I think I'm pretty happy with how NA went this Springfest, and of course we'll do better for BRL and BCS. Dude, when can I get an invite to Judge EU with you guys? That'd be great.
I mean, I think it'd be great as well. Like,
fly me over, dude.
Yeah, there are some things we do differently that you will be like, this is stupid, what the hell is going on? And then there are some things we do differently that you'll be like, holy shit, why don't we do this in NA? That's what I feel.
I mean, yeah, I think I would love an opportunity to like go to other, now that I've been to other like NA regionals to judge, because this was the first time I've ever actually traveled outside of California to judge anything Bushiroad. Now I'm just like, I want to go to other like actual like countries to do this. Like this is so cool. Like getting to see every region, kind of like the player base and like how they run, like I guess how the players kind of build the tournament. Like every tournament is like so different because of the players, right? So it's like it's super neat. I don't know, it was really great.
Like that's the one thing that I'm most jealous of NA judges for, which is that like you guys literally are just there to, you know, like operate and execute, whereas in EU, like because like Europe doesn't have a Bushiroad branch anymore, all of the tournament organization is outsourced to one of the distributors, and so as a result, like this season, like I've been head judge and basically TO.
Oh man, that's crazy.
So like yeah, so like I've been having to, you know, deal with like, okay, now we need to do this, now we need to do this, like, you know, like pretty much making sure that everything's like running as it should. And so like it's like from my point of view, it sounds like EU is just like, sorry, NA events are just like, oh, I guess it's just like kick back and like relax for once.
Yeah, you just have to focus on judging. That's it.
Yeah, which I've never, like, I don't think I've done at all ever in Europe.
Rough. Well, yeah, hopefully, you know, we get some cross-region pollinization for judges. That'd be cool.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year, yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I know it's pretty late for you, but I really appreciate it. It's great discussing this and talking with you.
It was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Would you like to say any final words? Maybe plug your channel or whatever. You're the bigger channel, but yeah, you can plug.
Oh shit! That reminds me. I completely forgot to shout out the stream on Twitter. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay, dude. It's okay.
Oh my god.
No worries, man.
We could have actually like educated some Vanguard players. Oh man.
They can just watch the VODs. It's fine.
I'll link them to the VOD. Yeah. But yeah, for the Wise players watching, I'm sure most of the Wise players know me anyway because like I shitposted in Wise a bunch, and you know, like I call myself a Wise player. How accurate that is remains to be seen. But yeah, you know, like I'm sure most people know me at this point. If not, you can just look up the word Zystral in Discord or Facebook or whatever, and I'm pretty easy to find. But yeah, thanks for having me on. You know, hopefully this has been educational, if not entertaining.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, talk to you later.
All right, good night.
All right, and that's it for the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming. Yeah, if you have questions, if you're watching like the VODs or anything, and you do have questions about Springfest or anything that you feel like I could answer, feel free to just like leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them. This is also technically my first time I've done a face review on this channel, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys for upcoming Bushiroad tournaments. Yeah, have a great weekend, guys. Laters.